You are unrepeatable. There is nobody else like you on this planet. And so it's not the time to play small. You have come here to shine. Hello, I'm Cynthia James, and I'm the host of Women Awakening with Cynthia James. And welcome to part 2 of Why Am I Doing This Podcast? As I told you in part 1, I came from a pretty dramatic and traumatic childhood, a lineage of women who had been abused and traumatized and had no concept of feeling powerful or strong or having a voice. And so I grew up in a way that it was intimidating, because I didn't feel like I could go out and do the things within me because I was this creative. I was joyous inside. I loved to sing. I loved to dance. I loved to dress up. I loved to play. But because there was so much danger in my world, I just kept my head down and I was quiet, except when I would get to school, I would try to keep busy so I didn't have to go home. So I was involved in everything, cheerleading and choir and secretary of the class and modeling and all of these things. But it was all to feel moments of safety. So when I started doing this podcast, I started noticing that there were common threads between the women I was interviewing, the women I was coaching, and the women that were following me on social media and on my mailing list. And a lot of it was people didn't know how to find their voice. They didn't know how to bring their gifts to the planet. They didn't know how to stand up and have strong boundaries for themselves. And so for me, it was like, well, I've been on that journey my whole life. I definitely can be of assistance here. And so I was starting this business. I was doing my coaching business, and I had gone through this leadership program, but I was still trying to navigate my way through. And I have a friend, and she's passionate about women too and supporting women in their brilliance. And so we decided that we were going to come together and brainstorm on how we could support women. And the thing that we came up with first was a conference, to do a 3-day conference for women called Women Creating Our Futures. And so we investigated hotels and different spaces and different ways so that we could make this a celebration for women. Well, let me tell you, we were blown away. Over 150 women signed up, and they came for this 3-day. We had vendors that were supporting women and their self-care, because here's the other thing we discovered, that women didn't know how to take care of ourselves. When I was doing all of the research for the book I Choose Me, women were taught to take care of everyone else first and then take care of themselves. But that depletes them. It exhausts them. It makes them feel like they don't matter. And so in this weekend, there was a whole room where women could just go in and have sessions of self-care. It was exquisite. And we had speakers. We had professional speakers, but we also had participants apply to tell their stories from the stage about how they grew, where they took chances, how they took leaps of faith, how they were finding their own voices. It was spectacular. Women walked away feeling so empowered, so excited, and asking, when's the next one, right? And so Jean is my partner, we were really talking about, okay, what can we do next? Because what we discovered is that there were a number of women in that audience that were entrepreneurs, and they were struggling. So the question became, how do we support them? And so how could we create an academy where women could come and learn aspects of running a business that was personal and professional? So we asked friends who were successful entrepreneurs if they would be willing to be teachers, facilitators in this academy. And everyone said yes. And so we sat down and we talked about What does this look like? What do we want to offer? How do we want to support these women? So, in the next Women Creating Our Futures conference, we offered the Academy of Women Emerging, AWE. We had a number of women sign up for this year program. And the whole premise was you are the center of your life. And every aspect of your life, personal and professional, needs to be nurtured and cared for and uplifted. So we taught the people self-care. We taught the people mental and emotional integration, my work. We taught marketing. We taught how do you tap into your brilliance. We taught leadership. It was amazing. What we witnessed is these women's businesses started to grow. Their confidence started to grow. And then many of them signed up for the second year to go deeper in the work because they could see the results. They were making money. They were creating strong boundaries. They were standing in leadership. It was so exciting. And then 2020 happened and the pandemic. So we couldn't go and have events in a hotel. And so we did one conference online, and it was okay, but it didn't have the kind of essence and energy that meeting in person. Because in person, they were having small groups and they were brainstorming and masterminding and doing all of these things. They were having photographs taken for their work. They were being supported in building their websites and their businesses and creating a life that brought them joy. So now, we're in the pandemic. And so it was like, okay, what do we do now? And I had begun working on Does My Voice Matter, the book, and a lot was coming up for me. I was really seeing so many mirrors with the women that we were working with and myself and with Jean. And I could see that there was still work to be done. There was still something that needed to be expanded. And so what I want you to know is that for me, Women Awakening, the podcast, became a vehicle for my own growth. Every guest brought inspiration, brought amazing stories, brought tools, brought gifts on how they could make a difference for women on the planet. I also started noticing that my work in emotional integration, was becoming much more prevalent. And so I thought, if I want to leave a legacy on this planet, what do I need to do? Because I can't do everything. I can't meet every person on the planet. And so it came to me that maybe what I should do is start training coaches to do my work. And so I put out a call to spiritual counselors, to therapists, and they all started coming and they started enrolling in this course for emotional integration to become freedom coaches. What has been so amazing about this is there's been a few men, but most of them were women. And most of them were women who not only wanted to coach other people, but they wanted to do their own healing. They wanted to do their own transformation. They wanted to find their own voices so that they could assist other women, other people in finding their voice. So I'm very grateful that there are now freedom coaches. But I want to talk to you a little bit about finding your voice. What I want you to know is because we're in a culture and in a world, actually, that isn't celebrating women's voices, women still feel like there's a glass ceiling. They still feel like there's not pay equity. They still feel that there's a pull for them to give up their dreams and to go back to that place where they are just taking care of other people. And so there's this inner struggle that is saying, well, who am I? Can I be resourceful? Can I be brilliant? Can I be successful? And can I have love? Can I have a family? And if so, how do I do that when I don't feel like the world is in celebration of the gifts that I bring? So one of the things that I noticed is that just like me, just like Jean and the women in awe, a lot of the women have been saying, how do I start my own business? How do I create my own space in the world? How do I bring my voice and my gifts to the world? And the thing about it is, it's been exciting for me to see that there are women who are saying, well, maybe I can't have it all, but I can try. I can open the field of possibility and potential, and I can try. And so a lot of these women are now successful entrepreneurs. They are collaborating with other women because collaboration is another way of finding your voice. And they are also creating products that meet the needs of people in extraordinary ways. I want you to know that growth is evolutionary. We are evolutionary beings. And so who we are 10 years ago is not who we are 5 years ago, is not who we are 1 year ago. And so what I have discovered and what I've been discovering about finding my own voice is this. I have to keep opening to what's next. I have to keep being curious about how to bring my gifts to the planet. I have to be awake and aware that I'm evolving, I'm aging, I'm shifting. My needs and desires are shifting. And what do I need to do to honor those spaces within myself so that I can flourish and be vital? And so that's what I'm telling the women in my life, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, because I want women to know how powerful they are and that they are extraordinary change makers and that they can um, grow, expand, explore new ways of being that are undeniable. And you get to say no. No is a complete sentence. You get to say no to things that no longer serve you. You get to say no to relationships that no longer serve you. You get to say no to players on your team that are no longer in support of the vision that you're holding. You get to say no. But you also get to say yes. You get to say yes to your health and your well-being. You get to say yes to the lifestyle that's going to support you. You get to say yes to rest and rejuvenation. You get to say yes to inviting people, only people that can bring you joy and ignite you into your space. There was a book called Who's in Your Room? And it talked about the fact that we get to invite into our space whoever we want. But we need to remember that once we invite them in, their energy stays in. And so be careful about who you invite in, who you say yes to, who you partner with, who you collaborate with. And then bring your voice in creative ways. You can paint. You can draw. You can write. I do a women's retreat, women's writer retreat, to invite women to bring their voices to the planet. This is what I think is important because I really do believe that we're emerging and that our energy and our gifts are important. I think that the stories of women, what we've been through, what we survived, how we've grown, what we've created is so important. And so maybe it's a book, maybe it's an ebook, maybe it's just journaling to get those feelings and those stories out. Maybe it becomes a course that you create. Maybe it becomes a webinar that you create. Whatever it is, the voice that you want to bring, the story of the life that you have lived is important. It's essential, in fact. This is what I want you to know. You are a masterpiece in the making. You are here for a reason. You are here because the universe needed your energy, your gift, your body temple, and your voice on the planet at this time to support the awakening of humanity because we are interconnected. We are powerful. We are expansive. You are unrepeatable. There is nobody else like you on this planet. And so it's not the time to play small. It's not the time to pull back your energy. It's not the time to doubt or question who you are and who you have come here to be. You have come here to shine. You have come here to grow. And that's why I love introducing you to the women, the guests on Women Awakening, because they're way showers. They're game changers. They're people who have said, yes, I want to be a beneficial presence for the planet and especially for women. So I hope you will subscribe to Women Awakening with Cynthia James. We're on all the platforms and video on YouTube. I hope that you will use the inspiration of my guests to inspire you to move, to make a change, to move forward, and to say yes to your life. You are incredible, and I'm very honored to have spent this time with you.